solving inequalities using addition, subtraction. So it's relatively easy day to day. So the first thing we're dealing with is equivalent inequalities is the definition. So inequalities that have the same solution. So basically all that is that, hey, listen, if I have an inequality and I do what I normally do to solve it, my answer solution is the same, has the same answers as the original problem. That's kind of what that's saying. The addition subtraction property of inequalities. Adding or subtracting each side of an inequality by the same non-zero numbers. Okay. So produces an equivalent inequality. Basically, the rules for solving an inequality are the same rules for solving an equation. If you have x plus 3 equals 5, what do? You subtract 3 from both sides. If you have x plus 3 is greater than 5, what do? You subtract 3 from both sides. The process is exactly the same. That's why a lot of chapter 3 is a lot like chapter 2, because you're going to be doing mostly the same things. Okay, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. The adding and subtracting each side of the inequality says, hey, I can do the same non-zero thing to each side. That's fine. I can add the same number each side, it works. I can subtract the same number from each side, it works. Okay. Now we'll skip this goofy stuff here. It's goofy. We'll skip that goofy stuff. Okay.
You can cross it out?
Yeah, you can cross that part out. I don't care. Leave it blank, cross it out. We're just not doing it. Okay, so problem number 1, using the addition property of inequality. What are the solutions to the inequality, and graph the solutions? This is a really easy problem to do. What you're doing is you're going to solve the inequality, and you solve this the same way as if there had been an equal sign in between. Just because it has an inequality doesn't change the rules. Okay? So, yeah, this is x minus 15. I want to get rid of the 15, so I add 15 to both sides. And I get x, and then my inequality comes down and does not change. And then negative 12 plus 15 is 3. So I get x is greater than 3. Okay. Then I need to graph that, because you have to graph it. You won't have to do it for all of them on your classwork today, but you will have to do it for some. So my number I'm talking about is 3. Do I have an open or closed circle?
Open.
Open. Awesome. Great reaction. Woo. Do I want everything bigger or smaller than 3?
Bigger.
Bigger. X is greater than 3. I want everything over here. Easy peasy. Okay, same thing on the next one. Variables on the other side. You just have to be careful what you're doing when you go to graph it more than anything else. My first step is still the same first step. Okay. I have x minus 3. I want to get rid of the minus 3, so I add 3 to both sides. And that gives me 13 is greater than or equal to x. Now, you will notice on the number line, there are no numbers on the number line. Oh my God, where do I put the 13? Anywhere I want. Okay, I'm graphing in relationship to 13. I can put the 13 anywhere I want on there. I do not need to put a bunch of other numbers on there. Just put the 13, because that's the only number I really care about. Okay, if they don't give you numbers on the number line, you can put the numbers on the number line that you want. And if you really, really want to make yourself happy, if you absolutely have to do it, you can put 11 and you can put 12 and you can put 14 on the other side if you really want to. I don't care. This is good enough for me. Now, I have a dot on 13. Is it open or closed? It is closed. Excellent. Wow, at least you guys are getting that part right for sure. Now, the big question, is x smaller than 13 or is x larger than 13?
Smaller.
X is smaller than 13 because 13 is larger than X. X must be smaller. So I want everything going in this direction.
Wait, you're supposed to flip it then.
You can if you want. I really don't care if you flip it or not. I really don't. If you want to take your inequality and switch it around to make it easier to do it for that, you can, or you can just reason out that the answer is, hey, I'm talking about everything smaller than that. 13 is bigger than X, so X is smaller than 13, and grab it. Okay, you should try to get comfortable with your inequality looking either way. Okay, using the subtraction property instead of the addition property. I have X plus 6 is greater than -4. How am I going to solve this one? Subtract 6 from both sides. Really not too hard today. So I get X is greater than -10. Once again, I don't have any numbers on the number line. Put -10 on there somewhere. Doesn't matter where. I like to put things in the middle. It just makes it look aesthetically better when I do that. Do I have open or closed? Open. Open, open, open. Okay. Is X larger or smaller?
Larger.
X is larger, so I go to the right. Okay. And then one last example. This is really an easy day today from the stuff, but the one that everybody hates, the word problem. The hard drive on your computer has capacity of 120 gigabytes. You have used 85 gigs and you want to save some videos on the hard drive. What are the possible sizes of the video collection you can save? Now, I understand many of you have already figured out the possible answer. However, this is an algebra class. We need to set up an algebraic inequality and solve that. It's not that hard. Okay? Now, how many gigs do we already have?
20.
No, that's how much room we have. How many do we already have saved on there? 85. We've already saved 85 gigs, right? And we want to add more to that, right?
Yes.
Question is, we want to know how much more. So we have what we want to put on plus the 85 that's already there needs to be more or less than 120 gigs. It has to be less because I can't put in more than I've got room for, right? So I have 120 gigs, and this has to be less than, can it be 120 gigs?
Yes.
Yeah, it can be 120 gigs. Man, I would not want to be that close to my memory capacity, but that's okay. That's your setup. What I want plus what I have has to be less than the total amount there's room for. And then solve it. Subtract 85 from both sides. And X is less than or equal to 35. So I have room for I have 35 gigs of room left on there that I can put stuff on. Okay? It's not bad. That'll be what? 20 minutes of the movie? Movies use an awful lot. Awful lot of drive. Okay? Any questions on this stuff? Really, it's not terribly difficult today.